He thought she was a beggar. The human didn't know she controlled the galaxy part when the rain was cold and heavy. It fell without mercy on Station 12, a dirty place at the edge of known space. This station was not beautiful. It was not clean. It was a place where ships stopped to refuel and traders came to sell cheap goods. Nobody important ever visited Station 12. Taeho walked through the cargo district with his head down. He was a human, 34 years old, with rough hands and tired eyes. His jacket was old and had many patches. His boots had holes that let the water in. He was a cargo hauler, which meant he carried things from one place to another in his small ship. It was not exciting work. It did not pay well. But it was honest work, and Taeho was an honest man. He had just finished unloading fertilizer for a farming colony. His back hurt. His feet hurt. He wanted to return to his ship, eat something warm, and sleep. Tomorrow he would find another job, another load to carry, another station to visit. This was his life. Simple and hard. As he walked past a loading dock, he saw something that made him stop. A woman sat under the metal awning trying to stay dry. She was not human. Her skin was pale lavender, like a flower Taeho remembered from Earth pictures. Her eyes were silver and too large for her small face. She wore robes that were soaked through with rain. She had no bag, no visible money chip, no friends waiting for her. She looked like a refugee. The galaxy was full of them these days. Wars had destroyed many worlds. People wandered from station to station, looking for safety, looking for food, looking for someone who cared. Most people walked past her without looking. A group of insect-like merchants clicked their mandibles in disgust and moved to the other side of the walkway. Two tall warriors from a proud species did not even lower their eyes. To them, she was invisible. Less than nothing. Taeho stood in the rain and watched her shiver. He did not have much. His ship was old and broken in many places. He had debt he could not pay. His dinner tonight would be half a ration bar and water. He was not a rich man. He was not a powerful man. He was just Taeho, a cargo hauler who nobody noticed, but he could not walk away. He reached into his bag and found what he was looking for. Half a ration bar wrapped in plastic. A thermal blanket, thin but warm. He had been saving the ration bar for later. He had bought the blanket for cold nights in space. When his ship's heating failed, he walked over to the woman and knelt beside her. The rain soaked his jacket even more, but he did not care. "Here," he said, holding out the food and blanket. "You look cold and hungry." The woman looked up at him. Her silver eyes were strange and deep, like looking into two small moons. For a long moment, she did not move. She just stared at him as if he had done something impossible. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, barely louder than the rain. Taeho did not understand the question. "Because you need it," he said simply. "And I have it. That is enough reason." He placed the items in her lap and stood up. He did not wait for thanks. He did not give his name. He just nodded once and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of workers and traders. The woman watched him go until she could not see him anymore. Her name was Yuna, but she had not told him that. She had many names, actually. The Silent Empress, the Eternal One, the voice of 10,000 stars. She had ruled the galactic sovereignty for 3,000 years. She commanded fleets that could burn worlds to ash. She decided the fate of 1,000,000,000,000 lives with a single word. And she had come to this dirty station in disguise. Under her wet sleeve, a small device recorded everything. It captured the human's face, his voice, his ship's registration number. It told her his name was Park Taeho. It told her he was poor and in debt and had no family left alive. It told her he was nobody important, but it could not tell her why he had stopped. Yuna had been testing species for centuries. When a new civilization asked to join the sovereignty, she went among them in secret. She pretended to be weak. She pretended to need help. She watched how they treated those who could give them nothing in return. Every species failed. Every single one. The strong ignored the weak. The rich ignored the poor. Kindness, in her long experience, was always a transaction. People helped others because they wanted something back. This human had wanted nothing. Una sat in the rain for a long time, holding the blanket and the ration bar. She had not eaten food like this in 3,000 years. Her meals were prepared by the finest chefs in the galaxy, served on plates made of precious metals. But this half-eaten ration bar felt more valuable than all of it. She thought about the human's words. Because you need it, and I have it. That is enough reason. Such simple words. Such a simple idea. Yet in all her years, she had never heard anyone say them and mean them. The humans had applied for sovereignty membership 6 months ago. Una had come to test them, expecting them to fail like everyone else. She had planned to stay for 1 week, observe their selfishness, and return home to reject their application. Now she was not so sure. She stood up, wrapped a thermal blanket around her shoulders, and walked into the rain. She needed to learn more about these strange creatures called humans. She needed to understand why one of them had given everything he had to a stranger who could offer nothing in return. Most importantly, she needed to find Park Taiho again. The galaxy was about to change, though neither of them knew it yet. A single act of kindness, given freely in the rain, had set something in motion that could not be stopped. And somewhere in the cargo district, a tired human hauler ate nothing for dinner and did not regret it at all. He thought she was a beggar. The human didn't know she controlled the galaxy. Part Toyuna returned to her hidden ship that night. It was not the small vessel she had arrived in. That was just a disguise. Her real ship floated in the darkness beyond the station, invisible to all sensors. It was a warship that could destroy planets, made to look like empty space. She walked through halls of polished silver and sat on a throne carved from a single perfect crystal. Around her, ancient machines hummed with power. These were her attendants, artificial minds that had served her family for 10,000 years. They knew everything. They remembered everything. They never lied. The human male, Una commanded. Tell me everything about him. Light filled the air in front of her. Words and pictures appeared, floating like ghosts. Park Taiho, age 34 standard years. Born on Earth Colony 7. Parents deceased. They had died in the Kepler Station disaster, a terrible accident that killed thousands. Taiho had been 20 years old. He had been alone ever since. He owned one ship called the Persistent Dream. It was a Class 7 cargo vessel, which meant it was small and old. He had modified it many times with parts from other broken ships. The vessel should not fly, according to the data. But it did. Somehow, Taiho kept it running. He had significant debt. He made barely enough money to survive. He had no criminal record. He had never hurt anyone. He had never cheated anyone. He was exactly what he appeared to be. A simple man living a simple life. This is all? Una asked. There must be more. There is no more, Empress. He is unremarkable by all standard measures. Unremarkable. Una thought about that word. A man who gave away his dinner to a stranger was not remarkable? Show me the recording again, she said. She watched herself sitting in the rain. She watched Taiho walk past, then stop. She watched him kneel and offer his food and his blanket. She watched his face as he did it. There was no calculation there. No expectation of reward. He simply saw someone who needed help and helped them. Cross-reference, Una ordered. Find other instances of human behavior matching this pattern. The machine took 3 seconds to search. This was very slow for it. Usually, it answered in less than the blink of an eye. 3 seconds meant it had found something large. I have located 400,000 matching instances, the machine reported. Una sat forward on her throne. 400,000? Yes, Empress. Humans helping strangers without expectation of reward. The behavior is extremely common among their species. The examples appeared before her. A human pulling an alien child from a burning building, suffering terrible burns in the process. A human doctor working without pay on a plague world until she died from exhaustion. Human soldiers protecting refugees from species that had voted against human rights. Human traders sharing food during famines when they could have sold it for a great profit. Story after story. Life after life. Sacrifice after sacrifice. They do this consistently? Una asked. This is not exceptional among them? It appears to be culturally embedded, Empress. Humans teach their children to behave this way. They praise such actions in their stories and songs. They have a phrase for it. What phrase? Basic decency. They consider helping strangers to be basic decency. Una stood up and walked to the viewport. Stars filled her vision, millions of tiny lights in the endless dark. She had watched civilizations rise and fall. She had seen species destroy themselves and each other. She had witnessed every form of cruelty that intelligent life could create in 3,000 years. She had never seen a species that considered kindness to be basic. Tell me about their history, she said. The machine obeyed. It showed her humans crawling out of their caves, learning to make fire, learning to farm. It showed her their wars, their plagues, their terrible mistakes. Humans had done awful things to each other. They had burned and killed and conquered. They were not perfect. They were not saints, but they kept trying to be better. After every war, they built something new. After every disaster, they helped each other rebuild. They wrote laws to protect the weak. They created medicines to save the sick. They dreamed of justice even when they failed to achieve it. They are contradictory, the machine observed. Capable of great cruelty and great compassion. Our models cannot predict their behavior with standard accuracy. Because they choose, Una said softly. Every time they choose, she returned to her throne and made a decision. Prepare my diplomatic vessel. Something small and unremarkable. I wish to travel among the humans longer. I wish to observe this man, Park Taiho, more closely. Empress, is that wise? Your safety cannot be guaranteed among primitives. My safety has never been guaranteed anywhere. That is the nature of existence. She smiled, something she rarely did. Besides, I wish to understand something. What do you wish to understand? Why he stopped? Why any of them stop? What makes them different from every other species I have tested? The machine processed this. You believe they will pass your test? Una thought about the rain. She thought about a man with nothing who gave everything. She thought about the look in his eyes when she asked him why. Because you need it. And I have it. That is enough reason. I do not know yet, she admitted. But for the first time in a very long time, I hope they will. She gave orders to her attendants. She would need new clothes, a new identity, a new story. She would become a researcher, studying human integration into galactic society. It was a believable disguise. Many scholars were curious about the strange new species from the spiral arm. Tomorrow, she would find Park Taiho. She would ask to travel on his ship. She would watch him for weeks or months, however long it took to understand. The fate of humanity rested on what she discovered. But more than that, Una realized her own fate might rest on it too. She had lived for 3,000 years. She had grown tired and cold and certain that the galaxy held no more surprises. Perhaps she had been wrong. Perhaps this simple human with his patched jacket, and his kind eyes had something to teach an immortal. Empress. She would find out soon enough. He thought she was a beggar. The human didn't know she controlled the galaxy. Part 3. Tae woke early the next morning. His stomach was empty, and his body was tired, but he had work to do. A farming moon called Harvest 7 needed grain supplements. The job would take 3 weeks through empty space. The pay was decent. He could not afford to say no. He was checking his ship's engines when he saw her. The woman from the range stood at his docking bay. She looked different now. Her clothes were clean and simple. She carried a small bag over her shoulder, but her face was the same. Those silver eyes, large and deep. That lavender skin, smooth as flower petals. I need transport to the harvest system, she said. I can pay. Taiho put down his tools and wiped his hands on his pants. He recognized her immediately. The beggar who was not a beggar. Something about her had seemed wrong yesterday, and that feeling had not gone away. I do not usually take passengers, he said slowly. I know, but I'm asking. There was something in her voice. Not a command, exactly, but a quiet confidence that suggested she was used to getting what she wanted. Taiho did not trust it. He had learned long ago that confidence often hid danger, but her money was real, and his ship was expensive to run. Half payment now, he said. You stay out of the cargo bay. You eat what I eat, which is not much, and you tell me your real name. My name is Yuna. I am a researcher studying human integration into galactic society. It was a lie. Taiho could feel it in his bones. No researcher carried herself like that, like she was weighing and measuring everything around her. But everyone had secrets. Taiho had a few of his own. Welcome aboard the Persistent Dream, he said. Try not to break anything. I cannot afford repairs. The journey began quietly. Taiho worked on his ship, fixing the 100 small problems that kept it flying. Yuna watched him. She did not offer to help. She did not complain about the small quarters or the bad food. She just watched, like a scientist studying a strange animal. On the third day, something happened. Taiho was eating his dinner when a distress signal came through the radio. A ship was damaged nearby. Their engines had failed. They were drifting toward an asteroid field. Without help, they would die. Taiho did not hesitate. He changed course immediately. That will add a day to our journey, Yuna observed. You will lose money. Probably. Taiho agreed. He was already calculating the new route. Then why? He looked at her like she had asked why stars were bright. Because they need help. What else would I do? They reached the damaged ship 2 hours later. It was a family vessel, small and old. Inside were 4 people from a species called the Karathi. The parents were scared. The 2 children were crying. Their ship was dying around them. Taiho worked for 6 hours to attach a tow line. He pulled them to the nearest station. He gave them food from his own supplies. He contacted repair services and negotiated a fair price for them. The Karathi had nothing to offer him in return. Their species had publicly opposed human expansion into the galaxy. They had voted against giving humans trade rights. They had called humans primitive and dangerous. Taiho helped them anyway. Thank you, the father said when they finally reached the station. We did not expect a human to stop for us. Kindness does not care about politics, Taiho replied. Safe travels. He walked away before they could say more. Yuna followed him back to the ship, silent and thoughtful. That night, she found him in the common room. He was drinking synthetic coffee and staring out the viewport at the stars. He did not sleep much, she had noticed. Too many ghosts kept him company. May I ask you something? She said. Sure. Your people. Humans. Why are you like this? Taiho frowned. Like what? You help those who cannot help you. You sacrifice for strangers. You showed kindness to me when I appeared to have nothing. You saved that family even though they hate your species. Why? For a long moment, he was quiet. Then he spoke, slowly, like he was explaining something he had never needed to put into words before. Because we are all just passing through, he said. The galaxy, life, everything. We are here for a little while, and then we are gone. The only thing that matters is how we treat each other along the way. He shrugged, almost embarrassed. Maybe that is simple. Maybe it is foolish. But my mother used to say that the measure of a person is not what they do when someone is watching. It is what they do when no one is. Yuna felt something shift inside her. A wall she had built over 3,000 years developed a crack. Your mother sounds wise. She was. Taiho's voice grew soft with old pain. She died helping evacuate a station that was not even her home. She stayed behind to make sure everyone got out. That was just who she was. He finished his coffee and stood. Anyway, we should sleep. Long day tomorrow. After he left, Yuna sat alone in the dark. The stars moved past the viewport, ancient and cold. She had lived for 3,000 years. She had seen wonders that would break human minds. She had witnessed horrors that would shatter human hearts. She had believed she understood intelligent life, its selfishness, its cruelty, its endless hunger for power over others. She had been wrong. This simple man, this cargo hauler with his broken ship and his empty pockets, had shown her something new. Not through grand gestures or beautiful words. Through small acts, repeated day after day, helping strangers, feeding beggars, saving enemies, because we are all just passing through. Yuna wrapped her arms around herself and wondered what it would feel like to live that way. To give without calculation, to love without expectation, to be good simply because goodness was its own reward. She did not know yet, but she wanted to learn Dot, and Park Taiho, without knowing it, had become her teacher. He thought she was a beggar. The human didn't know she controlled the galaxy part. 2 months passed. Then 3. Yuna should have left long ago. Her observation was complete. She had gathered enough information to make her decision about humanity. But every morning she woke up on Taiho's small ship. And every morning she chose to stay one more day. She told herself it was research. She told herself she needed more data. These were lies, and she knew it. The truth was simpler. She did not want to leave. She watched Taiho navigate the difficult life of a human at the edge of the galaxy. She saw how other species treated him. The insults, the suspicion, the doors that closed in his face because he was human. He faced these things every day, and every day he chose kindness anyway. He taught a young alien how to repair engines, asking nothing in return. The boy had no money. His family had abandoned him. Taiho spent 3 days showing him everything he knew, then helped him find a job on a trading ship. He stood up to a station boss who was cheating migrant workers. The boss was twice his size and had powerful friends. Taiho did not care. He argued and threatened and refused to back down until the workers got their fair pay. He nearly got himself killed. He mourned quietly when he learned an old friend had died. Yuna found him sitting alone in the cargo bay, staring at nothing. She sat beside him without speaking. After an hour, he wiped his eyes and stood up. "Life goes on," he said, "even when it hurts." The next morning, he was working again, helping again, living again. Yuna began to understand something important. Human kindness was not weakness. It was strength. It took courage to care about others. It took bravery to keep hoping when hope seemed foolish. Humans were not soft. They were harder than steel, in ways that mattered. She also began to understand something about herself. She had feelings for this man. Real feelings, the kind she had not experienced in thousands of years. When he smiled, she felt warm. When he was sad, she wanted to comfort him. When he looked at her with those tired, gentle eyes, She forgot that she ruled the galaxy. This was dangerous. This was foolish. An immortal empress and a mortal cargo hauler. It could never work. It should never begin. But hearts do not obey logic. On an ordinary evening, at an ordinary station, everything changed. They were docked for refueling when the emergency broadcast came. A passenger liner had suffered catastrophic engine failure nearby. Thousands of passengers were trapped inside. The ship was drifting toward a radiation belt. Without immediate help, everyone would die. Taeho was running toward his ship before the broadcast finished. "Come on," he shouted to Yuna. "We are going. Your ship cannot carry many passengers. It is not designed for evacuation. Then we will make trips. We will figure it out. Now come on." They reached the dying liner to find chaos. Escape pods launched in every direction. Small ships fought for position around the docking ports. The massive liner was tilting as its systems failed one by one. Taeho threw himself into the rescue. He made 7 trips, filling his cargo hold with survivors until his ship's air systems screamed warnings. He pushed his engines past every safety limit. He did not eat. He did not rest. He just kept flying back and forth, saving as many as he could. Other human ships did the same. Yuna watched them work together without orders, without leaders, without any organization. They simply saw people in danger and helped. It was instinct for them. It was who they were. When the liner finally exploded, the death toll was 400. It should have been 4,000. Taeho collapsed against his console after the last trip. His hands were shaking. Tears cut paths through the dirt on his face. "We could not save everyone," he whispered. "We could not save them all." Yuna knelt beside him. Without thinking, she took his hand. "You saved 3,000 lives," she said. "You and your people. Against all odds. Against all logic. You saved them." He looked at her. His eyes were red and exhausted, but something else was there too. Something that had been growing for months. "Yuna," he said. "Who are you really?" She had known this moment would come. She had dreaded it. She had also, secretly, hoped for it. "I need to tell you something," she said. And she told him everything. She told him about the galactic sovereignty, about the tests she gave to every species that wanted to join, about the thousands of civilizations that had failed, proving themselves selfish and cruel when they thought no one important was watching. She told him her real name, her real title, her real power. She told him she had lived for 3,000 years and had never, in all that time, met anyone like him. The silence that followed seemed to last forever. "You are the Empress," Taeho said finally, "of the entire galaxy. Yes. And you have been traveling with me for months, eating bad food, sleeping in a tiny room, fixing broken pipes. Yes." He let out a sound that was half laugh and half sob. "Why? Why would you do that?" "Because I needed to understand," Yuna said. "I came to test your species. I expected to find selfishness and cruelty, like I always find. Instead, I found you." She moved closer to him. For the first time in 3,000 years, she felt uncertain, afraid, hopeful. "I found kindness given freely, courage without reward. I found the man who gave his dinner to a stranger in the rain because she looked cold and hungry. And through him, I found something I thought the universe had destroyed long ago." "What?" Taeho asked. Yuna took his face in her hands. This man who was dust compared to her. This man who would live maybe 50 more years. This man who had changed everything. "Hope," she said. "You gave me back my hope." And in the cargo bay of a battered ship, surrounded by the survivors they had saved, an empress and a cargo hauler held each other as the stars burned on. Neither of them knew what would come next. Neither of them cared. For this moment, they had found something rare, something precious. They had found each other. He thought she was a beggar. The human didn't know she controlled the galaxy. Part 5. The grand chamber of the eternal throne was so large it had its own weather. Clouds formed near the ceiling. Light filtered down like sunlight through mist. 1,000 species had sent representatives, and they filled the galleries like a sea of strange colors and shapes. At the center of it all stood Una in her true form. Her robes flowed like liquid starlight. Her crown held the compressed hearts of dead suns. She was beautiful and terrible, ancient and powerful. No one who looked at her could doubt that she ruled the galaxy. Beside her, looking deeply uncomfortable in borrowed formal clothes, stood Park Taiho. He had not wanted to come. He had argued that he was nobody, just a cargo hauler, not the kind of person who belonged in throne rooms. Una had told him that was exactly why he needed to be there. "I have made my evaluation," she announced. Her voice carried to every corner of the vast chamber. "Humanity's petition for membership in the sovereignty is approved. Effective immediately." The room erupted in noise. Representatives stood and shouted. Some cheered. Many protested. "Empress, with great respect, this is a mistake," called a tall being with scales like green armor. "Humans are primitives. They have been traveling between stars for only a few centuries. They have no military power worth mentioning," added a representative whose body was made of crystalline structures. "They control no important resources. They bring nothing to our alliance." Una let them speak. She had expected this. When silence finally returned, she raised her hand. "You measure worth in power," she said. "In territory. In the ability to threaten others. These have been our standards for thousands of years." She paused and looked across the assembly. "But I have spent many months among humans in disguise. I have lived their lives. I have seen them at their worst and their best. And I tell you now that they possess something our great empires have never achieved." "What could they possibly have that we lack?" demanded a representative whose species had conquered 50 worlds. "Compassion without calculation," Una replied. "Courage without conquest. The willingness to sacrifice for strangers, expecting nothing in return." She walked forward, her robes trailing behind her like rivers of light. "I disguised myself as a beggar on many stations before reaching human space. Among your peoples, I was ignored, insulted, or used. Among the humans, I was fed. I was sheltered. I was treated with dignity, though I appeared to have nothing to offer. One human's kindness proves nothing. Not one human. Thousands. I have the records. Human after human, station after station. The same pattern. They help because helping is who they are. They cannot imagine doing otherwise." She climbed the steps to her throne but did not sit down. "We have built our civilization on strength. We have survived through dominance. But surviving is not the same as living. Dominance is not the same as wisdom." She gestured toward Taiho. This man gave half of everything he owned to a stranger in the rain. Not because he expected a reward, but because she was cold and hungry and he could help. His entire species thinks this way. I believe they have something to teach us. Something we have forgotten or perhaps never knew. Taiho stepped forward. His face was pale and his hands were shaking slightly. He was clearly terrified. "I am not good at speeches," he said. "I'm just a cargo hauler. I carry fertilizer and machine parts. I am not special." He took a breath and straightened his shoulders. "But I know what my mother taught me. She said we cannot control what the universe throws at us. We can only control what we do about it. The only thing worth doing is being good to each other, not because of what we get back, just because it is right." He looked around at the thousands of representatives watching him. Humans are not perfect. We have wars. We make terrible mistakes. We hurt each other sometimes. But we keep trying to be better. We keep reaching for something higher, even when we fail. Maybe that is foolish, but it is who we are. He shrugged. That is all I have to say. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then one representative began to applaud. Then another. Then 100, 1,000, until the sound was like thunder rolling through the vast space. Yun watched Taiho's confused face and smiled. It was a real smile, warm and bright. Her attendants had not seen her smile like that in 3,000 years. 1 year later, the treaty ceremony was held on Earth. Taiho had insisted. He wanted Yuna to see where his people came from. Not their space stations or colony worlds, but the blue and green planet that had given birth to their species. They stood on a hillside overlooking the ocean. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Waves crashed against rocks far below. Birds called in the distance. Your world is beautiful, Yuna said. It is all right, Taiho agreed. We have tried not to destroy it too badly. She turned to face him. The eternal ruler, the deathless monarch. Looking at a man who would live perhaps 50 more years if he was lucky. I have made you an offer, she said. Life extension treatment. A position in my court. The galaxy at your feet. Yes, about that. You are going to refuse. I am going to refuse. She had known he would. It was why she loved him. My ship still needs a captain, Taiho said. There are still people out there who need help. I cannot do that from a throne, even if I am on that throne. Even then, he smiled. But I hear the cargo routes between Earth and the throne world are very busy these days. A person could visit often if he wanted. Yuna laughed. The sound surprised her. She had forgotten what real laughter felt like. You are impossible, she said. I am human. It is what we do. Above them, the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Billions of years old. Trillions of miles away. Watching over a small planet and two people who had found each other against all odds. The galaxy had changed. Not through war or conquest or power. Through kindness, given freely, expecting nothing in return. And it was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, humanity was spreading among the stars. They carried with them something rare and precious. Something that could not be measured in weapons or territory or wealth. They carried hope. And the universe would never be the same. The end.